Hello. All right, welcome back. As you saw from earlier today, a lot of exciting announcements around Box AI agents that can transform how you work with your most important data. I'm incredibly excited to have an amazing guest, Kevin Weil, the CPO of OpenAI, leads all of the product functions at OpenAI, and wanted to have a little bit of a conversation on the future of AI, obviously, what you're doing at OpenAI and ChatGPT, and then where agents are going in the workplace. Kevin, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it. So, okay. So first of all, what is it like to be Chief Product Officer of OpenAI, and how did you get into this role? How did we get here?
It's been almost a year, actually.
Wow.
Sam and I have known each other for a bunch of years, and he is involved in so many interesting things. He's investing in fusion companies and things like that. And I'm a science nerd by background.
Yeah.
So I used to just always, whenever I was thinking about doing something new, I would give Sam a call and just say, what is interesting right now? Because he's always 5 years into the future.
Okay. So he's like your nuclear phone a friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so this one time I gave Sam a call and he said, actually, why don't you come in and chat? And,
oh, wow.
And then as soon as I came in and talked to people, I was just like, you haven't given me an offer yet.
Yeah.
But this is the most interesting thing in the world, and if you give me an offer, I will sign whatever you give me.
Wow.
Just let me come work here.
Okay.
And it's been a blast.
That's, not always the best negotiation strategy, but
it really wasn't. I acknowledged that up front, and it was just like, I just want you to know where my position is here.
It'll all somehow work out. So you've had an amazing career, largely across consumer technology, and now, and then increasingly over time, a lot on the B2B side. Now you're in a world that kind of combines those two.
Yeah.
And we definitely want to hear any breaking news that you want to share about what we can expect from ChatGPT. But you said this is sort of the year of AI agents, and a number of kind of contexts that's I think emerged. I think that's basically true for everybody that's tuning in. If I go back 2 years ago, the big ChatGPT moment was this moment when we all saw the potential for AI in sort of a chat interface. Now I think we're seeing the next rev of that, which is the potential for AI agents, and how do we interact with them. So give us a little bit of a landscape. What are AI agents going to look like? In particular, how are they going to show up in ChatGPT? Walk us through that.
This is the year that ChatGPT goes from answering questions for you to doing things for you in the real world.
Yep.
And it's agents that are the vehicle for that. So we said this was going to be the year of agents. We kicked it off in January by launching an agent called Operator that can just use the web the way you use the web. It can browse. It understands what it's seeing. It understands, how to search and what different elements on the web are and what's likely to happen if you click on something. And it can just accomplish things for you on the web. You can order DoorDash or go look at Box documents. Actually, you had a great tweet when we launched it about having Operator use Box to assemble a data room, as if you were doing an acquisition.
So it's actually was a quick sidebar. So Operator's fantastic. So anybody listening should definitely check it out. It's very surreal because you're watching the AI use your software, and so that gives you this little window into it. And there were actually a couple of moments in there where I was a little bit mortified of gosh, we do need to make that more usable. I was like, it didn't know to click that one button for this particular function. And so it was actually weirdly this incredible usability study using AI, because you're just it wasn't trained specifically on Box and it has to figure out how to use it.
Right.
And so you just see these incredible kind of moments in the product experience. So browser kind of AI agents was the kickoff to the year.
Yeah,
what happened next?
That was the beginning. And then I think the one that really opened people's eyes, certainly opened my eyes to the power of agents, was deep research.
Yep.
Where the idea is you go from ChatGPT, which normally you ask a question, you get an answer, to and some of the reasoning models, which we can talk about as well, are you ask a question and it'll think like the way you and I would think if we got asked a hard question for 30, 45 seconds. Deep research, the idea was, well, what if we let these models think for 20 minutes?
Yeah.
And they could go browse the web. If you ask a hard question, they could go browse the web. Say you're looking to understand the impact of, tariffs across industries by state, and you want to, maybe you're a small business and you're veteran-owned, and so you also want to look like arbitrarily complex kinds of things that if you were going to go do that work, it might take you 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
It's going to go do a bunch of searches, understand what it learns. Based on that, reason about what it's learned, figure out, no, there are still gaps here. Okay, so I'm going to go do more work over here. And you end up with this, often 20-page document. And to me, the most interesting thing about it is it's rather than a lot of what ChatGPT does, which is like saving you 5 minutes here,
Yeah.
A little bit more efficiency over there, summarize this document here, all of that's super valuable. But deep research was a bunch of, like, when I asked deep research queries, I just wouldn't have been able to do that research.
Yes.
Because I don't have 5 hours or 5 days or whatever. Often I don't have the expertise to do even what I'm asking. And yet I can have this agent go off and do all this work and come back with a meaningful, well-sourced document for me.
Yeah.
So that's been a big game changer.
Yep.
One of the things we're doing now, by the way, is especially around the partnership that we have together, we're starting to let deep research connect not just to the web, but to internal sources of knowledge.
Okay.
So think your Box documents, Google documents, SharePoint, Jira, things like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the next really big kind of magic moment, because we all have so many documents.
Yep.
And everything
we
changes
like
all the time.
Yeah,
It's great.
Yeah,
it's great. There are lots of them.
More
but
documents.
Imagine if we can together make them way more useful and allow you to, introspect, dive into any number of documents, even across services, to get answers. I think there's going to be another magic moment there.
That we totally agree, and anything that relates to documents and AI, we definitely believe lots of magic moments to come. I want to kind of circle back for 1 second on the deep research, because we're going to bring you back to the interop point, and you guys have been, I think, great stewards of interoperability in AI. But on the deep research side, we basically said, wow, like this is searching the web in this completely different way, and it's an amazing breakthrough.
Yeah.
But it was really like you compressed 5 or 10 minutes of work into 3 seconds. Deep research, to your point, was all of a sudden now you can start to do work that you probably never would have even thought before, because even the barrier to imagine, like, I'm going to go ask somebody this question and I'm going to go make them spend a day of work to get back to me, it just basically reduces all of the use cases that you have. So deep research is this incredible breakthrough. How much of the work is time being spent going across the internet to find lots of sources, versus how much is the model kind of just in its own head rethinking about the problem? How much is the research part versus the thinking part? And what is the breakthrough on reasoning models that led to this being possible?
Yeah, one of the really cool things, so the models now can use a variety of different tools. And if you think about, from the perspective of the model, being able to search the web is just a tool.
Yep.
It can also write Python code. So if it wants to do a bunch of data analysis over some of the data that's come back, it'll actually write a little Python program.
Yeah.
Same thing if it wants to like visualize the results in a graph, or if it gets an image back and it wants to better understand the image. I've seen it write Python code to do image analysis as it thinks.
Wow. Okay.
It's absolutely wild.
Yeah.
But it can employ all of these tools as it reasons.
Yeah.
And that's really been the big breakthrough.
Okay.
And then enabling the model to get good at sort of interspersing these things. So it can use a tool, get some information back, reason about that, then go, okay, well, the thing I need to know next is this. And so maybe I'll write some Python code to do that. And then I'll search, and then I'll reason a little bit more, and then I'll search again and write some Python, and then use this other tool, and then use memory. It gets to know you over time through your usage. And it can bring all of these things together into one final answer. That's
crazy.
Kind of been the big unlock.
Yeah. When it's, let's say, generating Python code for some data analysis kind of sort of task, is it always starting from scratch, or does it have a library to kind of pull from of, okay, this is the common thing I should build or use for this type of use case? Is everything ephemeral?
Everything is ephemeral.
Okay.
Everything starts from scratch.
Okay.
But the model is very good at writing Python, and so it very quickly can, the things that are in libraries that you might import, it can import them too, but it can also just write it.
Was there some moment in the past 12 months where then the reasoning model dynamic kind of, was this discovered? Was it an emerging property of AI that you guys kind of figured out? How did we get here?
You can think of it kind of like, if I ask you a question, who was the third Roman emperor or something like that, you either know it or you don't. The model knows it. So the model just says, here's the answer. If I ask you a harder question, I ask you to solve a crossword puzzle or a Sudoku, or even think about booking a flight.
Yeah.
If you have to book a flight through multiple places, you're like, okay, well, flights to this place get in this time. The overlay, okay, no, that's not going to be a long enough time. I might miss my next. You're like forming hypotheses.
Yep.
Using what you know to validate those hypotheses. You either say, okay, yes, that can work. Now let me go to the next phase, or no, it can't. Let me go back to the drawing board and think again. That's what these models are doing.
Yep.
And it was a really big breakthrough, and it's in the same way that if you had to give a snap answer to every single thing in your life, you probably wouldn't do a lot of good thinking. The ability to reason has unlocked the model's capabilities, and we see huge jumps in the model's intelligence, ability to solve hard problems, things like that.
It becomes very convenient to kind of anthropomorphize what you just described in the way that we do this. But you have this time compression capability of the power of compute. So do you imagine that these thinking tokens that are kind of streaming out of the model while it's doing reasoning, will that eventually, with let's say GPU performance improvement, still be more or less instantaneous, and it's compressing all of that? And how far are we off from that being possible?
Well, I think that's actually one of the, you see the difference between you let the model think for 1 second for simple questions. Actually, O3 has this new search mode where it'll think for like a minute in search, and that's actually pretty cool. You get kind of a mini deep research with a minute of thinking. You've got full deep research where it might take 20 minutes. But what if we instead could let the model think for like 3 days or 3 months, or what happens in that case? When you think about fundamental science, for example, you don't make breakthroughs in fundamental science by thinking about something for 20 minutes. You devote weeks, months, years of your life to it. What if you let these models do that? I think that's actually going to be a big part of our future. It's very core to OpenAI's mission to think about, what if we could speed up the pace of fundamental science research and innovation.
So you imagine a world where we will basically deploy a problem in the form of some kind of task or whatnot at some cluster of computers and a la AI agents, and just check in on it and see, did it come back with something that was relevant for our work, and you might have these very, very long-running agents kind of completing work for us?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to have different tasks that take different amounts of time. Some are still going to be very quick. Summarizing a document is going to get faster and faster, and it'll be more or less instantaneous. But I think as we go forward, you're going to be, today you can only give, models can solve incredible problems relative to 2 years ago. Relative to a year ago, relative to 6 months ago. It's kind of mind-blowing, and then we get used to it very quickly. But they still can't solve everything. And the way that they're going to be able to do that over time, I think, is you're going to give them more room to think, to solve hard problems, which is kind of intuitive.
What is the pace of that you're seeing from the rate of model improvements happening? So to your exact point, if I look back at ChatGPT kind of 3.5 versus some of your latest models, GPT 4.1, O3 or O4 Mini, I mean, it's incredible, because you kind of look back and you're like, I can't believe that was the breakthrough model. Like because our expectations now have been heightened so much. But what do you think about the pace, and especially on the axes of cost of the tokens have dropped dramatically. In probably some cases like 100x plus. The accuracy rates have improved dramatically. In some cases, kind of 10x plus, depending on the data type. Is this trajectory going to continue? There's this thing called scaling laws, if you want to maybe kind of comment on what that looks like. Where are we in that journey of kind of saturating or plateauing versus no, the acceleration is just still happening?
Everything that we see says that we are not plateauing, and there's a lot of room to continue growing. So the crazy thing about where we are right now, every 3 months, computers can do something that computers have never been able to do in the history of the world before. And that didn't used to be our world, and now that's just the world we live in. But you've got two exponentials that are happening at the same time. Model capabilities are increasing, and you mentioned we have two ways that we scale the intelligence of the models. One is the traditional way where you just do bigger and bigger pre-training runs, and that still works. It's an expensive way to scale, but it still does work. And then you have this inference time compute, the reasoning, where you can just essentially allow the models to think for longer. And both of those make the models more intelligent. So as we improve on either axis, models get better, and we don't see any stop to that anytime soon. And then on the cost side, you mentioned, if you compare GPT-4 when it originally came out a couple years ago to some of our models now, there's a 500x cost difference. So Moore's law was twice the number of transistors on a chip every 18 months. This is, if you go, let's even say it's 100. Over 2 years, that's a 10x drop every 12 months. It's a faster exponential than Moore's law. it's just a wild place to be in this current moment.
Are you willing to commit to this as being the trajectory? Can this be the sustained trajectory that we're on?
That's what we hope.
Wow,
I mean,
okay.
every look, you've seen us, most companies think about putting things behind a paywall.
Yeah.
We take things from behind the paywall and give them to people for free.
Yeah.
We drop the cost of our API repeatedly, whenever we can, basically. Because what we see, our mission is about bringing AI and AGI to the world.
Yeah.
And the smarter the model we can offer for the lower price means that more use cases become ROI positive, means more adoption, means the world progresses faster.
Yep.
And so this is what our mission, is. We're going to keep doing this to every extent that we can.
It's been great to see, and there was this debate at the very beginning of the year with this breakthrough open source model from DeepSeek, and the big debate was this idea of, okay, if we bring down the cost of the AI models, does that then reduce the compute usage? And to your exact point, every time we've lowered or seen a lowering of costs on our kind of AI expenses, actually usage goes up more than commensurate with the cost drop.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden you can start to throw AI at more problems that were not affordable before, or they weren't ROI positive. Or alternatively, when you get the efficiency to come in, then you get breakthroughs like reasoning, which all of a sudden then reintroduce a 50 or 100x increase in the amount of AI usage for a particular task, which are both interesting kind of examples of the compute kind of growing again. Are you more constrained by, do you think, improvements on the hardware architecture, or algorithmic improvements in the form of the training runs and kind of what results you're getting out of that, or model, whatever you're doing from a post-training model efficiency standpoint? Where would you like to see the bigger breakthroughs happen at this point?
The good news is we see a bunch. I mean, the hardware is getting better every single year. We are making continued algorithmic improvements. We and the whole community. I think that's one of the reasons you're seeing cost drop to the degree that it is, because it's actually just getting cheaper to inference these models, and you're seeing intelligence scale. So you've got and you said this earlier, but you've got intelligence going up. You've got accuracy going up. You've got cost coming down dramatically. The models also get safer as they get smarter. So when you think about the various aspects of AI safety, the more recent models we've launched are also the safest models that we've ever launched. They're more controllable. They, as they reason, they're harder to jailbreak, things like that. And so you've got basically this set of 4 things that are all going in the direction you would want them to go. And it's creating an opportunity for incredible progress.
I'd love to double click on the safety correlated with kind of intelligence capabilities. So the guess would be that in the reasoning process, is it checking back in on its sort of guardrails and guidelines, and or why is that correlated?
I mean, part of it is just us getting better at post-training the models and understanding how to control them and so on. And then the other bit is with reasoning models, they'll like double check their answers in different ways and say, does this really make sense? And now that they can do tool use, they also can search the web, and there's a bunch of ways that they can check answers, so you get less hallucinations.
Do you guys do you have any particular philosophy right now on how much you're willing to let the models effectively complete kind of read-write operations? So initially at the launch of Operator, there was sometimes these moments where it would kind of have an alert that says, okay, would you like the Operator, which is this browser in the cloud, to complete this action for you, because it was actually changing the state of the other system that it was interacting with. When do you think this actually goes into sort of acceptable for it to be full autopilot, and how long running can that autopilot be before the user should check in? Where are we at with that?
I think people will start to get more comfortable letting the model do lower stakes things. But we always want it to be the user choice. So you can choose to give it a little more leeway if you want, and if you don't, then you don't. And then models will also over time take on higher stakes things, and for that you're definitely going to want control. So we always teach the model whenever it's going to do something that is, a right action that's less reversible, then ask the user.
We've been through these different eras. Okay, we had user experience, and that was a whole sort of domain, and that's how we modernized software. Now there's an emerging concept of agentic experience. Like, how much time do you spend on that sort of interaction pattern of the user talking with the agent and kind of guiding it or controlling how it gets interacted with?
A fair amount, especially now, because I think that almost all of the products that we use today that we spend our time in are sort of ripe for reinvention as a result. And that's an opportunity for the big incumbents who run those products, and it's an opportunity for startups and a lot of others.
Yep.
Because you're just going to be able to do way more. I mean, think about the percentage of your time that you spend on a given day working on tasks where like the outcome of the task is important.
Yep.
It's valuable to get it done. But in between you and getting it done is a bunch of typing and waiting for things to load. And you're just like, ugh. You know, we don't think about it because we're so used to doing that stuff. I think it's probably some meaningful double-digit percentage of our days, and I just want to outsource it all. And we'll be able to do that, and it'll be awesome.
Let's talk about then the future of work, because I would sort of double underscore that. I mean, it might be 80% of our time. You know, in aggregate is sort of we're just trying to move something forward in a very linear fashion. How do you think of the future of work? You know, how do we deploy AI against it? What work will we still do as humans, and then what work will we hand off to the AI?
I think we're going to look back on a lot of the work we do today, even computer programming. I think our kids, you know, 10 years from now, are going to be like, so you guys wrote code yourself? How did that, like, wasn't that slow? Didn't you guys make a lot of mistakes? There are still rocket scientists. Rocket scientists have incredibly important jobs and do very important things. It's just that the job has evolved. I think you're still going to have computer scientists. It's still going to be important to be technical. It's just the job will evolve and it will be very different. We're going to sort of get elevated to do more things that are, you know, more fulfilling and interesting. And we're going to automate most of the stuff that's not.
And do you then, you know, coding is sort of a great representative example because it's sort of simultaneously the AI makers are also the users of AI coding, and so you have this great flywheel as one of the kind of first jobs that seem to be transformed. Do you see this as then I as an individual contributor have agents basically reporting to me that I'm deploying work to, and then I'm kind of reviewing that work and stitching it together? What's my role relative to the agents, and how do we kind of interact with each other?
So today we're, I think, just at that point where almost everybody's using AI to write code today. But most of them are still in the mode of the sort of autocomplete style that, you know, with a windsurf kind of experience, a GitHub Copilot, et cetera. I think you'll have that for a while, and because it's, you know, it's awesome to augment yourself by 50% or whatever and vibe code and create a whole bunch of things really quickly. And I think you're going to have more agentic coding where you can just give tasks to an AI agent and say, you know, here's my bug queue. Just go submit PRs for every single one of these. Work 24/7 and give me fixes to every single bug that's on here. Every single time there's a new, you know, security vulnerability disclosed by anyone anywhere, scan my entire code base automatically. Every single commit I make, I want you to do the, you know, there's just going to be so much that can be automated, and we will be stronger for it. And you also give people way more ability to create. There are, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 million people in the world that can write code. Imagine when that's a billion. It's going to be awesome.
This idea of AI lowers the floor and raises the ceiling of what you can do. So all of a sudden, you can have 1 billion people go and explore programming. You'll retain probably, I don't know, 5x the number of people that really get into it as today. So maybe you have a couple 100 billion people that get into it. But then the top 5 or 10 or 20% can use these things as complete superpowers in a way that was just never possible before. So all of a sudden, if you're great at this particular area of work, you're just out of this world. Way more people can also get started, and so the aperture of every field expands as a result. And I think we're going to see examples of this basically for everything, right? Like getting involved in healthcare, like I can now ask my question to ChatGPT, and I ask way more questions about health than I ever did before. And ironically, that actually probably means I'm going to the doctor even more. Because, and so then all of a sudden, doctors actually have probably more than enough demand, and we probably need more of them because we've lowered the barrier to actually engaging in the healthcare system because of AI. So do you see that across all roles? Obviously, not everything will kind of benefit from that, but it seems like we'll actually just see more demand for a variety of services as a result of AI increasing the quality of that service or lowering the barrier to getting access to it.
Absolutely. I think that's been the history of technology in some ways. When you democratize something that previously only a small group of experts can do. You actually increase the demand for all of the services sort of in and around it. Another example of this, I'm the worst artist you could possibly imagine. Like my 8-year-old is definitely better at drawing than me. But I can use the ChatGPT image gen, and I can create cool things.
Yeah.
And when more people create cool things, I may never be an expert user of like, image editing software and all the sort of tools around it. But some number of people who might not have gone that direction are going to be like, wow, this is awesome. And they're going to go into it.
That's
and
right.
Like, that's just a cool thing when you can give more people the power to create.
Yeah, actually, literally on this one. So my kids had a lemonade stand this past weekend.
Amazing.
And we made a logo for them with ChatGPT for their lemonade stand. Like, it does sort of increase the creativity, and my 6-year-old got to decide all the things that would show up in the image.
Yeah.
And it does just mean that way more people participate in this in completely new fields that they would have never seen otherwise.
Absolutely.
So in this world where you have agents that are going off and reviewing the security vulnerabilities or generating code, do you see that still rolling up, or are the agents going to be so good? Is the accuracy going to be so high that might not even be necessary in the future?
I think it will probably evolve.
Yeah.
You're going to start with a human kind of managing some subset of these things, and they're going to start, these agentic software engineers, if you will, will start as junior engineers.
Yeah.
You're going to give them easier problems to solve, and if you give them too hard of a problem, they're not going to quite know how to do it. They're going to get it wrong, whatever. It's a new grad engineer today, and then it's a medium, seniority engineer in 3 months.
Yeah.
And it's a senior engineer in 6 months, and it's an architect in a year.
Yeah.
And you can definitely imagine as these things get better and better, and you're able to trust them more, that maybe you have the AI software engineering manager,
right,
and the human is checking the manager,
right.
Or you build. I think the systems that we build around this are going to be meaningfully different.
Yeah, totally.
And it is really hard, I think, to kind of figure out where some of this goes. You can easily like galaxy brain yourself into into something that just doesn't have a whole lot of basis in fact. And the way that we try to deal with that is we believe in iterative development and iterative deployment.
Yep.
So we just try and release early and often, get this thing in people's hands.
Yeah.
No matter how many smart people work at OpenAI, there's way more smart people outside of our walls.
Yeah.
And the more that we get our models out to people, to businesses, the more that we understand about them, and then we iterate from there.
That's great.
And you kind of learn as you go about, you co-evolve with society in some ways.
Yep.
We think that's important, and we're probably more likely to get it right than if we, tried to hold it in and do it ourselves.
Yeah. At some point, the whiteboard breaks down pretty quickly when it's in the hands of real customers, and you see just totally different use cases. And we've seen the same, building on OpenAI of just things we never imagined a customer would do. With our platform, all of a sudden you learn about, and it's been pretty incredible. So you guys have released a number of just, I think, amazing tools for developers. You have an agents SDK, so anybody can go build any type of agent, leveraging the underlying kind of OpenAI models. We leverage you guys, quite a bit, across our AI platform. We've seen the improvements of these models just be at an unbelievable pace. The accuracy of data extraction for our default experience, which was previously 4.0, and now it's 4.1.
Yep.
We've seen about a 15-point improvement in the quality of responses as measured by just users voting.
That's awesome.
And so you just have that level of upgrade of the quality of the system. So it's been an incredible experience just watching this pace of innovation. And so when you think about, kind of your role in, these agents that are going to work together, the Box agent, tying into the OpenAI kind of ecosystem, and especially because I think so many customers that are listening are saying, okay, this is all super exciting. How do I make sure that my AI, agents work together in the future in a cohesive, seamless way?
Yeah, I think it's another thing, frankly, that we're going to have to kind of co-evolve together. But it's only going to work if we all find the right protocols. Like, no one is going to do their entire work through ChatGPT. I don't believe it. I think it can be a great front door for a lot of things.
Yeah.
But the way that you're going to do anything complex is going to be, through more specialized applications that have access to data, expertise. I mean, think of all the stuff you've built over the years. There's a reason that people come to Box to use your product. You built something great and very specific and focused on a particular set of needs.
Yeah.
And so our goal is to be highly interoperable with all of that. If we can make it easier to, type some things and do some of your work, and you have an agent that can go off and do, awesome, we would do that.
Yeah.
And you're going to want your agent to be able to interact and do a bunch of things with other third-party services.
Yep.
And then people are going to go to those third-party services all the time, and hopefully they are powered by AI that kind of meets them where they are.
Yep.
that is solving more specific problems. So
And
to me, it's a little bit of like, all the boats are going to rise. Box is going to be a better service because of this.
Yeah.
We're going to be a better service, and we're going to find great ways to work together.
Do you imagine that I, as a user, go to ChatGPT in the future, and I can already do a version of this now, but let's say this would really require tapping into lots of different, sort of software products. I might do a query or a task that spans multiple systems.
Yeah.
That you guys are going and executing in some kind of long-running type of agent, or agentic workflow. Is that where you imagine this going?
I think that's the power, frankly.
Yeah.
It's going to be, if you talk about ordering an Uber, am I really going to type into ChatGPT, like order me I don't know, Uber builds a great app, I can just go use it. But if it's something more complex and I'm suddenly juggling multiple apps because I want it to, it's the night before and I want it to look at my calendar and then check the traffic and then figure out what time, and I want that to just all happen for me.
Yes.
That actually does save me a bunch of time.
Yep.
Especially if instead of me having to think about it in the morning,
right, it's just you wake up
proactive, it's done.
Yeah.
And it's also, by the way, gone through and read a bunch of my emails and drafted replies and all sorts. I want the proactive thing that combines the tapping through services that I have to do today.
Yeah.
So I think there's something really powerful there.
This utopian state of kind of deep research-esque capability, but across multiple SaaS systems.
Yeah.
Is for us a holy grail use case, because Box will contain your sales materials and your marketing materials and the contracts, but Salesforce is going to have your customer CRM data, and Workday is going to have your HR data, and you might have a task that needs to span multiple systems at once, and so that ability to have an agent kind of be able to go through multiple technologies, aggregate the answer, stitch it all together, I think is a huge breakthrough for the industry.
Yeah, 100%. It's turning these capabilities into something that's really deeply useful for you every single day.
Yeah. So on the interoperability, we've been working together on bringing again the OpenAI models into the Box AI Studio. Offering some great default experiences for customers as well. Sounds like as you guys do more deep research, opening up to multiple data sources and systems. Any other kind of future direction that is worth sort of noting on just how you think these technologies come together?
We would love to see Box integrated in a bunch of different places. People, if you might have a simple query where you're just I know there's a particular document.
Yeah.
So you definitely want to be able to just link directly into Box, grab a document, and start to query it.
Yeah.
And then you want the deeper thing too. So I'm excited about a bunch of the different directions we've got together.
All right, rapid fire. AGI, when is it here?
It's funny. In some ways, it's already here. There are lots of places where you're just this is mind-blowing, and it's already smarter than me about a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to be just a continuous rise. It's going to continue getting better at places where it's already superhuman.
Yeah.
And all the places where it feels not yet human, it's going to get there. So, I mean, I'm very optimistic about the pace of progress.
Yeah.
It seems like every 3 months we're just shocked by something that's now possible.
Yeah.
I think those shocks are going to continue.
Yeah. Okay. GPT-5.
Can't wait.
All right, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Hey, man,
thanks so much. Thanks for coming out. And looking forward to all the work that we're doing together, and obviously continued kind of push toward an AI agent first era of the enterprise.
Yeah, we're super excited about it.
Awesome. Thanks.